In this show, several difficulties regarding celiac disease are addressed. Celiac disease is on the rise, and it can be challenging socially for people who have it. With planning and some flexibility, children, teens, and adults can work through the celiac disease maze. And I will briefly explain what I mean by maze later in this program. So if you think you have celiac disease, please seek health professionals to diagnose and, if needed, to help you manage it. So what is celiac disease? It is an autoimmune disease that occurs in genetically predisposed people when they eat gluten can damage their small intestine. Now, the area of the small intestine that gets damaged is referred to as the villi, and even smaller, the microvilli. Villi are like finger-like projections that help with the absorption of food. And the microvilli are even smaller finger-like projections that also help to increase the absorption of food in your gastrointestinal tract. Well, what is the prevalence of celiac disease? According to the Celiac Disease Foundation, the prevalence is higher in children and in women. According to the past few decades, there's about 2 million people who are diagnosed with celiac disease in the United States. So what is gluten? It is a protein that's found in several grains. You find it in wheat, rye, barley, and perhaps oats at times. Gluten gives the structure to dough during baking. So when you have baked goods, the structure are like the beams, the steel beams that help it to stand up. The pathogenesis of celiac disease, or pathogenesis, is how does a disease occur? Celiac disease is due to genetic factors, environmental factors, and of course, when one who has it ingests gluten. Factors that can lead to celiac disease include a gastrointestinal infection in childhood or a gut bacteria possibly, but not absolute. Sometimes after surgery or pregnancy, childbirth, a viral or a severe emotional stress can bring on celiac disease. There's still a lot to be learned about its onset. Celiac disease and Giardiasis. Giardiasis is caused by a microscopic parasite, Giardia duodenalis. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But when you eat an infected food that contains this particular microscopic parasite, you can get stomach cramps, bloating, nausea, diarrhea, which are very similar symptoms to celiac disease. And this is why I refer to it as a maze, because you have several gastrointestinal issues that are very similar as far as the symptoms go. So you don't want to self-diagnose. It's very important that you seek medical professionals to determine which condition you have. Well, what are some of the symptoms of celiac disease? You have several symptoms, and again, it becomes a maze because these symptoms are very similar to other gastrointestinal issues. Well, one is weight loss, and the weight loss is due to poor absorption of certain foods and minerals, and also you get issues with diarrhea, and you can lose weight because of that. Another symptom is gas. In your small intestine, if you cannot absorb nutrients from the food, sometimes that can damage your microvilli and the villi and produce gas. And this would also produce a pale, bad-smelling stool. Another symptom is unexplained low blood count, which would attribute to anemia. Digesting all of your nutrients are needed to deliver those nutrients that help to build your red blood cells. Tingling or numb feelings in your legs, which are due to neuropathy, which stems from nerve damage in your hands and your feet. Diabetics get that. So again, sometimes you can have symptoms that could be attributed to other issues. But due to gluten, which triggers an unusual immune response that leads to flattening and altering of those millions of microscopic finger-like projections, which we call villi, that line the inner wall of the small intestine. Now, when they are damaged, the villi, they can't work properly to get the essential protein, fat, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, which are essential nutrients that our bodies need to keep us healthy and which leads to good living. It is a maze, but we will manage to get through it. Another symptom is irritable bowel syndrome. Now, I was told when I was working as a dietitian in the hospital that doctors call anything that they can't diagnose or figure out what it is, they'll call it irritable bowel syndrome. But anyway, irritable bowel syndrome affects the stomach and the intestines or the GI tract. The exact cause is not known, but symptoms are gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. Another symptom of celiac disease is pain in joints. So when one eats gluten, it can trigger an inflammatory condition infecting the body's organs and soft tissue, which gives you the joint pain. Another symptom of celiac, painful itchy skin. The body reacts to the gluten by producing antibodies to attack gluten proteins. And when the antibodies travel through the bloodstream, they build up under your skin, causing a rash. Now, your doctor can prescribe or recommend a certain type of ointment that can help with the rash. And again, that's why it's important to seek medical help. Celiac disease versus Crohn's disease. Now, there's a maze. Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis. We will address these conditions in another show, but again, they're very similar as far as the symptoms go and some of the difficulties that you have. The Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory condition, can affect the GI tract, thus it can cause those similar symptoms as you would see in celiac disease. Now, a disclaimer, and I will say this throughout the show, always seek your medical professionals. Now, when you have Crohn's disease, it can affect all parts of the GI tract. Now, when I say the GI tract, and I'm thinking now when I'm teaching nutrition in college, we had to go through and teach them about the GI tract. So it starts in the mouth. Your food starts in the mouth, and then it goes down your esophagus, from the esophagus to your stomach, from the stomach to the small intestine, and from the small intestine to the large intestine, and then out your rectum. So those are all the points of the GI tract. If you have Crohn's disease, it can be an issue or issues with any part of that GI tract. But unlike celiac disease, there is not an issue with gluten. And so gluten doesn't cause the inflammation in the people who have the Crohn's disease. Experts do not really know the exact cause of Crohn's disease, but you can get these crack-like ulcers and many granulomas that accompany the inflammation of the bowel, usually at the ileum and the colon area of the gastrointestinal, or I would like to refer to it as just the GI tract. Well, there is no known cure, but what helps tremendously is to follow and be vigilant about following a strict gluten-free diet. So you must avoid several things. Barley. And barley, you can get it in a cereal, or some people can use it in place of a rice, but it would have gluten in it, so you must avoid that. Wheat. Wheat is in so many products. Durum, which is a type of a wheat. Farina. We mostly think of farina with my favorite cereal. My favorite cereal, cream of wheat. Graham flour, which we mainly eat with graham crackers. And then there's rye. Semolina. Spelt, which is a form of a wheat. Triticale. And malt. We mainly know malt from the malt shake if you're old school, or malt candy, and of course malt liquor. And it's sometimes in hot beverages. They may put malt in there. But we can also find it in products that we don't think of. Here we are going through that maze again. You know, those are a lot of things that I've just addressed, but what about these other areas? You can find it in lipstick. So you need to read the ingredients. Vitamins and mineral supplements. Once again, read the label, herbal and nutritional supplements, toothpaste, and mouthwash, over-the-counter medicine. Once again, it's very important to work with your health professionals. You've got to be vigilant about reading the labels, and you can get through the maze. We'll have a number of resources that can also help you along with your working with your medical team. There's good information on Mayo Clinic, the Celiac Disease Foundation. I like going to WebMD, and the Center for Disease Control, the National Institute of Health, and the Canadian Society of Intestinal Research. There are a number of references for you to help you with navigating through your maze. Today, we have so many products that are available to make it easier for you because the celiac disease is on the rise, and a lot of people are suffering and they have not gotten the diagnosis of what their condition is, and it could be very detrimental to you. Because going through the maze, I also learned that some are asymptomatic. So that means you're not going to have some of these symptoms that I've read to you, and there was a laundry list of symptoms. So you may not experience all of that, depending on the spectrum or the level where you are. I provide educational information on my site, but it's not to take the place of what your health professionals recommend for you. I'm Das, and I was very interested in doing another program on celiac disease that was a little bit more information than the other show that I provided. You're welcome to look at the other show, but I wanted to cover some more detailed information because I do realize that celiac disease is on the rise, and I want you to be able to navigate through the maze with some basic 101.